Welcome, everyone, our dear invited evaluators. Thank you very much for watching this video. We're here to give a demo of the evaluation process using one of our apps, which we will share via a link to you so you can do the same. This is a very important part of the journey. We've been working with hubs and teams on the ground for several months to facilitate them in organizing hackathons, which have been taking place in their own regions and working on projects in their own contexts. We've had over 1,000 participants. It's been a huge success, and now comes the time to evaluate their work. We like to frame this in a particular way of evaluation being that of giving value, attributing value to things. So by us sharing our evaluation perspectives, we're actually enabling those projects to be valued. And that's really exciting because they've all been working really hard, especially on this whole process of engaging in working on systems and from regenerative principles, which to many have been quite unexpected in some cases. So what we'll do is we're each going to share some evaluation perspective in this call in a live way. And at the same time, many of us will be doing this for the first time. So you will be hearing questions of inquiry, people figuring out what this means as we go. And that's actually in support of your learning process to figure out how you can best contribute as evaluators. So without further ado, let's give a quick overview of what's shared on screen here. Obviously, you have the globe. It's not yet interactive. We might extend that in the future. On the left here, you have four panels: teams, hubs, partners, and combined. These panels reflect various data about the organization. And that means hubs, teams, and partners, as is shown here. This combined panel shows an overview of how many enrollments there were per region, grouped by country. And then from there, there's the different main stakeholder types. In the teams panel, you have a list of all the teams. So there's over 100 teams that formed, and there's a card for each of these in this panel. You can hover over it and you see a quick overview. You see the team members, the roles that they've self-attributed. They came up with them roles themselves. And a description of those roles. You can see, you can see their problem statement here at the top. So that was something that was really cool about this program. We didn't set problem statements for them. They found them themselves by walking their community and identifying what they wanted to work on. You can see where they're based and which hub they're associated to. And you can see what scope they're aiming for with their project. So there's some options. Some are going for a prototype or proof of concept level. Some are more like a minimum viable product, something a bit more developed. And some are even aiming for a first partnership or a pilot project. That's the scope, which you can see for every team there. And then you can see level of Cardano implementation, and there's several options here as well. This team have just nominated orientation and preliminary learning. So that might mean they're doing something really ambitious. It might mean the team haven't worked on Cardano before and they're still learning about the concepts. Maybe they worked on another blockchain network. We don't know, but that's a little indicator. If I go to another team, like this one, whoa, they've got a lot of tags for their level of Cardano implementation. Team alignment, designed, implemented, dependency selection, even deployments on testnet. That's pretty impressive. So then for every team card, you can expand it and you can actually read a lot more about that team. And I'll go into that in a second. But for now, let's jump to the hubs tab. Here you have the same thing, a card for every hub. When you hover over the card, it gives you some more meta info. This is the purpose statement of the hub. So let me read out this one for Quantech in Chang. We are driven by the necessity to solve our local issues, proposing solutions that are rooted in our cultural paradigm, but also in alignment with the functioning principles of nature. Beautiful. Wow, that gets me interested to learn about this hub. So what's interesting about the hub cards is you have these buttons here, and they take you to different spaces for that particular hub. So if I click on docs here, and I hope this is one that works, we've run up on an authentication wall. So let me choose a different hub, Project Genius. If I click on their docs button, it actually takes me to a knowledge space for that particular hub. And wow, these guys are going above and beyond. They have a changing photo gallery. That's something that we've not even implemented in our docs. So that's pretty cool. I'm excited to see that, first of all. Like really nicely structured, everything really clearly laid out. You've got the teams here, a little profile card for each, links to their LinkedIn, so you can really get to know the people behind this work. And then on the left here, you can see how they're structuring their knowledge base, different events that they're organizing, how they're thinking about evaluation, all the teams. Look at all these teams they've onboarded. Oh, it's just incredible. I'm super excited to go through this, and I hope you all are too. Back to the Hubs tab. We have three sub tabs within here. Setup, timelining, team registrations. These outline at a high level the different stages we went through in onboarding those hubs into the process of organizing their own hackathons. There was certain infrastructure they had to set up. So those that have got a nice gold trim and a little star, those are the hubs that did this in a very timely manner. They completed their infrastructure setup in a timely manner. So that's something you can bear in mind when you're evaluating which hubs are really demonstrating that they engaged in this process in a consistent and ongoing way. Timelining is a very interesting one. Unfortunately, I think there's a API request being blocked, so we don't have any timelining data, specifically numbers. I know this does work on a different domain, so I think it's a cross-domain issue. So we'll look to get that fixed, but you'd see a similar kind of thing. Certain hubs that have a minimum number of timelining contributions get a red trim, so you can see which hubs were timelining with their teams throughout the process. Finally, team registration. This shows which hubs have signed up teams. So if I scroll down after a certain point, the trim drops off. That doesn't necessarily mean that there's no teams, but we're looking for three teams as a minimum for them to get a trim. And then below there, some hubs might not have any teams data. Um, Last thing, Megan, and then I'll come to you. Partners is a similar thing. It gives you a card for each partner. At this moment, we just have cards for evaluators, and you can learn a little bit about the evaluators here. Megan,
Yeah, it was really quick. I just wanted to say on my side, and I was looking at my screen. I'm sorry, I didn't look on your screen carefully, but on timelining, none of them have any. I don't know, it's kind of orangish red. Is that, I just wanted to make sure that was correct.
it's not correct. It's a bug.
Okay. Oh, okay,
Um,
okay. So it
yeah,
will have it once. Okay. No, that's fine. I
I think
had
it's a
just heard you
domain.
saying that, so I wanted to make sure.
It's a domain issue, I think. So if I go onto the Prisma domain, it should load properly because I think in the back end, it doesn't need to jump from one different domain to another. So we'll try and get that addressed, taking note. Okay. Any
And then,
other?
well,
Yeah,
so then I did have another question. Maybe you'll go over this, so I don't need to ask it yet. But if we go to like setup versus timelining versus team, all of them seem to point to docs. Um, are
yeah.
those different docs, or are they sort of ultimately a,
Great question.
a subset of each other? Yeah.
No, that's a great question. They're all the same destination for these buttons for that particular hub. So whether you're on the setup tab or the timelining tab, if you go to the docs of next chain and click that, it will take you to the docs of next chain. And if you switch to the timelining tab and you go to next chain again, which is, you can see they didn't set up their timelining as effectively. It takes you to the same docs basically.
All right, and then you'll go over later how to navigate through the docs more explicitly.
Yeah, so okay, thanks for saying that. That's a really great point. The docs is a huge part of what these hubs have been working on. They reflect all of the team's work and they essentially hold all of the contributions from all of those different perspectives of the different participants and the teams they've formed. They hold that all together in a way that's expressing or trying to express what it is that's meaningful to this place. So that's why the globe is really a powerful symbol, because it kind of allows you to feel into a little bit, oh, this is about real on the ground work. So when you're reading the docs, you can hopefully hold that as you're reading through. Um, So let's see if I can find a meaningful about us. All right, let's read the about us. Our story, from a spark to a movement. Project Genius began with a simple spark to ignite creativity and design thinking in the next generation. Our journey started with an inaugural innovation contest that exceeded all expectations. We saw 178 students, 52 teams rise to the challenge, proving that the hunger for technical excellence is immense. The energy culminated in a grand finale with over 300 educators and tech enthusiasts in attendance. Um, so you can really read about how that hub is working with teams on the ground and forming locally relevant projects. And yeah, the docs give a way for you to read through everything in a lot more detail. And these are the first times I'm seeing these pictures and go through this particular page for Project Genius. I know they've made a lot of progress because last time I was here, it wasn't looking this slick. Mercy.
You're muted, Mercy, by the way.
All right, thank you. So from an evaluator perspective, for instance, the Zaria Hub, they have over 50 submissions. Um, is that or do all that need to be reviewed? Or I know that there was a short list to 3. Where would the evaluators find that, or are we getting to that?
Yeah, that is a great question. Thank you, Mercy. So, a little bit of insight for the newcomers in the recording. At the end of a several month process of facilitating hubs to organize their own hackathons, they had formed several teams, and we then asked the hubs to highlight which 3 teams they would like to offer to invite evaluators to look at first. And in that way, we're streamlining the process for evaluators so that you don't have to read through 100 team cards, even though they're so rich with information and meaning, and it would be really wonderful if we could, but recognizing that um, time is upon us. We needed to we wanted to do what we could to support the best projects in being able to be seen in that way. So we've asked for the hubs to highlight the top 3 teams. That's what Mercy was asking about. We have collected that data and we will now make that a feature in the cards as well. So there's probably going to be some way that that information is reflected in the UI as well. It's currently not there, but it will be by this time tomorrow. Thanks, Mercy. So then for
Thank
the evaluators, it would be like maybe a button below these buttons where it says these are the top three teams, and then you can click to go to that team directly and start reading about it in detail.
Okay, Tabs, help me understand something. So what happens to uh, the other the other projects which are not part of the top three? Where do they send them, or do they keep by themselves? And at what point will you make demands for it, or what happens to that?
Okay, great question. So, as you can see here, I don't know if anyone noticed that, but before there was just a zero, and now there's a second dot popped up which says -1. And that's to show that actually there was an iteration of this team. It was in one version where they were describing themselves in this way, and then they updated themselves, and now they describe themselves in a much more fuller way. I think that's really exciting. And I'm drawing your attention there to say that all of this work is supposed to be this, it's just the beginning. It's just the start of much more to come. And these teams are hopefully going to continue to evolve, continue to develop their projects. Um, that's important because when we're evaluating, we want to be it would be good for us to evaluate in a way that recognizes that connection between the projects and the hub. They kind of play two different roles in the region, but importantly, they're both part of one whole, the locality, the place, their local region. And so that might actually be a way to evaluate. You might actually think as an evaluator, okay, this project is really strong, clearly. It was highlighted by the hub as one of the top three teams. But let me just read around the additional context of the other projects in that region and see if there's anything that comes to my attention in that way. Does that shift how I'm evaluating this particular project? Can I see some interrelationship between one project and another where I can see actually, yeah, this top three project is really strong because it's also supporting three more projects in the region? Can I find those connections by reading further into all of the other work? Um, and that top three highlighting list might also change. Probably not within the time frame of this program in the next 3 days, but this whole thing has been set up to continue to evolve. Sam, did that answer your question?
Not really clear. Okay, so let me be specific. Maybe I
Yeah.
didn't also ask it well. If a hub had 10 teams, for example, and at the end of the day, they are, submitting to us their top three, what happens to the rest of the seven projects?
They're all on there. They're all on there. You just need to find them in the long list.
Maybe I can help to add a little bit to that. And this is something that we really need to really emphasize and highlight. I don't necessarily think that it's a question that we need to bring to the evaluators. I think that we need to look at that under a different stream, because what we have been talking about a lot is the fact that we are going to have this post summit incubation, right? Whereby we're going to keep working with these teams. The fact that they did not make, let's say, the top three locally does not mean that they are not viable teams. So we are uh, really trying to figure out how we keep working with these teams, either to scale them up or to include them in an incubation, or however we want to do that. Does that help a little bit?
Yes, Mercy, yeah, and that helps. Yeah. So in terms of where to keep these Is there a place where we can find all the projects or all the teams from all the 12 hubs at one place?
I think that's
Why,
the
if I want
Teams
to have
tab.
access to, yeah, all the projects or all the works that was being done during this process, I can just access them.
I think it's the tabs is sharing right now.
Okay.
Teams, right?
That's a tongue twister. Yeah, but I think at the same time, and it's reminded me of a question that came from another hub lead, is where can I see all of the teams for my hub? So it is a particular grouping that has not been mm, presented here. We have the data for it. It would be really easy to do, but it just needs to be presented. Maybe I can implement a little group by hub option up here, and then you can see all of the teams for that hub.
Should I go with my question?
Yes.
All right, so I'm becoming more familiar with this overall. Maybe we should have done this a while ago. Um, but I think what I'm sort of wondering right now is what are we expecting to change by tomorrow, which is sort of the finalization deadline. And in particular, are evaluators gravitating more towards the hub section to find projects or the team section where they'll look at all teams? Because I think what we've gone over so far is just how to navigate everything. And what I'm seeing is that, for example, in the hubs tab, not all of the hubs, you can't get to all the docs. So one of them, it
Mm,
looks like a login issue. I don't know how hard that's going to
yeah,
be to change, but
yeah.
it looks like they have a lot of postings in there. And then some of the other ones don't have any. So does that mean it will be impossible to view kind of anything about the project other than the team like card that's on the first tab?
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So for the for the hubs that have a docs, but it leads to an authentication wall, that's
Mhm.
something which we can try to address between now and tomorrow. It's a link that needs to be submitted slightly. It's a wrong link, basically. Um, but we can try and support them to polish some of those things up. For the hubs way down here that don't have a docs link that leads anywhere, the assumption is that they basically dropped off from the process at some point. So that is to be expected. It was a very demanding process. And in that way, these hubs at the top are kind of the ones that, by nature of them also being highlighted, have shown really significant contributions throughout the process. And that speaks to the evaluation as well. We're fortunate now to be able to have had a budget extension, as has been communicated, which is like so wonderful. I'm so glad that we can bring one hub lead from every hub to the summit. But a while back, without that budget extension, we were going to have selected a finite number of hubs. So that's why this trim, this highlighting, we were calling it hub spotlighting, was really important. And it works in a way where there's two things. One, there's the highlighting with the color, so they stand out. They're like, "Oh, look at me, I did well, I've got a star." Obviously, that's a good sign, right? The other thing is the order. So the hubs at the top, by nature it being at the top of the list, kind of have a little bit of a preference of getting seen first, right? So how did that order get calculated? Well, in many cases, it's by the count of the relevant metric for that panel. So the team registration one, the hub with the most teams is at the top of the list, and then they go down in a descending order. So 15 at the top, 11 a bit further down. What's this one? 8. You get the idea. So that gives you an idea of how you can evaluate as well. Same thing for timelining. 499 timelining contributions for Next Trend. Congrats to them. 241 as you go down, and a bit further down, you quickly get to less and less. The criteria for getting this red trim was 100 queued messages. That's something that we programmed. We could program it differently, but the purpose has been more or less served. Yeah, so there's all of those little info which you can review to aid you in evaluating. Even this little part here that says, um, what was the hosting capacity of this hub? How many were they aiming to host? How many participants did they actually sign up? And how many signups were there in the city? Although take these metrics with a pinch of salt, there was some geo coding that we have to do, and I won't go into that for now. But yeah, generally, it's one of the less interesting metrics to look at. This one's actually really interesting as well. So how we're approaching evaluation is there's all of these different evaluators that have signed up very generously. Massive thank you to all of them. Big shout out to Shik, who's actually a past member of the Prisma team. And he's written here about his evaluation perspective. So what this list makes interesting is you can see the different perspectives from which people are evaluating. So imagine you have all of these different projects, and now we also have all these different evaluation perspectives that are informing the evaluation. So let me read Shik's just to give you an idea of this, what I mean there. My perspective as an external evaluator is grounded in governance, how projects design and distribute decision-making power, manage risk, and remain accountable to the people they affect, especially when AI or data systems are involved. And then he goes on, but this looks like a really meaningful and rich description of how he will be evaluating. If I scroll a little bit further down, there's Abdul Rahman, who's a past participant of an action learning journey in Accra. And he says, having been in your shoes during the first action learning journey, I approach this evaluation with radical empathy and a focus on real world problems. I won't just be looking for a polished final project, but for the learning process you navigated, how you listened to stakeholders, pivoted when challenged, and designed specifically for the unique complexities of the African context. Wow. How cool is that? So all of these evaluation perspectives are going into the evaluation process for these teams. And I think it would be really interesting at this point to jump into this detail section. But I'll pause for any questions at this stage as well, or any other inputs people want to give. What's coming up as we whiz through this in a very rapid manner?
Yeah, I just want to point out we have like 13 minutes left.
Okay, that
That was
means
fast.
3 minutes for us because we wanted to leave. Actually, we wanted to leave 15, so let's try and wrap this up. Okay, last thing I'll say here is these different sections come from the team registration form that the teams submitted to officially register. And the team formation happened after a significant part of the journey as individual participants. Maybe some teams were already working as a team before the program, but many people formed teams through this process. When we registered them, there was these 4 important questions, which basically are revolved around the tabs here that you see. So how do you see your role as a project in the region? What's the potential that you're working on? How has your perspective shifted over the course of the program? And how are you organizing yourselves to realize that potential? That's cool enough as it is, right? But as well as that, they've been able to update. So you can actually see where they have come from in different points in time. So on the 12th of December, there was no content available. They didn't answer those questions. Then on the 3rd of January, they updated with what looks like a really sincere response to each of those. And I would love to just read some parts out of here as well, because I've been reading through the submissions as they've been coming in, and it is really, really cool. All of them so sincere and really insightful. So please do delve into the detail section. Last thing I want to say as well is if I go back onto the hub, and I go onto the team registration tab, we've sprinkled a little bit of AI into this in this section here, where once in this tab, team registrations, when you can see how many teams there are for this hub, it actually summarizes the responses from all teams per question and gives you a summary here for the whole hub, for that particular hub. So, how are these teams responding to that question of what is their role that they perceive for themselves in the region? And it says for this next trend hub, teams emphasize their project's role in addressing systemic challenges within Nigeria and the broader West African region, focusing on empowerment, transparency, and economic inclusion. And so it gives a summary for role, potential, perspective, evolution. I think these things are so interesting. Anyway, I could go on, but yeah, let's leave it there and wrap up. Any closing remarks you guys would like to give to our evaluators who are very generously engaging in this evaluation process for us?
Well, maybe I should say thank you for engaging in this journey with us. One main reason all of you are here is some of us have our own biases that prevent us from, fairly evaluating and being kind of at the top line of evaluation. So it's really valuable to have some unbiased and rich outside perspectives.
Thanks, Megan. Who would you like to pass it on to for a closing remark?
I'll pass it over to Nana Safo.
Oh, I think he's not here
Oh, did he
anymore.
drop? Okay, I had my screen is on mine, so I'll give it to Mercy or Sam.
Sam, I know you're there.
Yeah, I'm here. But I wanted Mercy to. I thought Mercy is speaking, and
Yeah,
maybe.
let me go for it. Uh, sorry. Thanks, everyone. We really appreciate our evaluators. Some of those that tabs read out, very inspiring. Thanks, and we know that we'll keep doing this. So thanks. That's not very eloquent, but just know that we really appreciate everything. Cheers.
Yeah. So yes, from my side, I think it's solid. A lot of work has gone into this. We appreciate the efforts. But let's keep reviewing, and if there are any things we'd like to draw your attention, I hope that is welcome.
Awesome. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, everyone. Last thing from me is how do you submit your selections? Very important step, right? You're evaluating in order to select the teams which will actually get an all expenses paid trip to Nairobi to the Cardano Africa Tech Summit. And they'll be able to bring their projects forwards, make very valuable connections, and hopefully bring back lots of meaningful um, leads and potential to their hubs and to their regions. And the answer is a form. So that will be shared along with various complementing resources in an appropriate way. You will all be made aware of how to do that. But that's basically it. Massive thank you, and we look forward to future engagements.